What is going on, guys, and welcome to ForTheFans, the brand new bi-weekly football and football manager podcast with myself, Jack, and my co-host, Ben. We're going to be talking about the Premier League, world football news, and all things in the transfer window. Let's get straight into this.
Sculpture of a goal, Pablo. It's perfection.
So first things first, guys, welcome to ForTheFans. I'm Jack, you guys know who I am, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ben. Ben, say hello.
How you doing? Me, Ben.
This guy's Ben. He's going to be my co-host every week, or every other week, I should say. We're going to be here just talking about everything in the world of football. Brand new podcast, as I've said, for the fans. Bit of an FM reference. Ben, do you want to introduce the people? Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Okay, I'm not single, guys, so let's get that out in the open. Not single, but I am 23 today, so that's good news. Well, actually, no, not when you listen to this, but today I am 23.
We should point out that Ben is like really old. He sounds very wise, though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I sound organised. So I've done a few podcasts in the past. You won't have heard those, but I've done a few. I used to have a YouTube channel. I was quite popular in 2009. Not anymore, because everyone got good, and I just didn't.
He's very bitter about it.
I'm not bitter at all, but if you know who you're listening to, and I don't forgot about you. So, let's crack on, shall we? I'm ready. There was really exciting, loads of goals this Premier League weekend. It was good.
Tell me about it. I mean, match of the day. What was there, like 4 or 5 goals?
I've recorded it just so I can watch those goals back.
Have you?
It was that
You're going to be able to fast forward through them all, because that is the beauty of like Sky Go now and just watching stuff online. You can just kind of get rid of the boring bits.
Yeah, I'd seen all the goals online before match of the day, so I was kind of like, do I really want to watch Michael Owen and Robbie Savage discuss hair? And I wasn't that interested, so I didn't really watch that much of it.
What about Michael Owen on BT Sport?
He's the greatest commentator alive.
It's tragic.
I don't know if you follow Michael Owen facts, but they're brilliant.
I've seen them. Oh dear, they're quite funny, aren't they?
Yeah. Shall we start with one of Michael Owen's, or both of Michael Owen's former clubs?
Yeah, why not? Why not? So,
Right.
The Man U Liverpool game. This obviously we're both Liverpool fans. We're going to try and keep this non-biased, but.
And you'll never. No, I'm joking.
So no, I mean this was the quote-unquote big game. Obviously, Super Sunday was actually super for once with the Arsenal Tottenham game.
It's not always super, is it? Sometimes it's Aston Villa versus West Brom, and it's not super at all.
You kind of sat there wondering, is this like, should we get Ofcom involved? Because
it's 0-0 at the end of the second game, and you're kind of like, this hasn't been super. This has been a non-spectacular Sunday, but they can't really sell it as that. It's a shame. But I thought it was, both games were interesting, but not packed full of goals. But I don't think goals always mean it's going to be a good game or not a good game.
Well, that's the thing. You can have like the best 0-0s ever at times, and then you'll have like a 2-0. It's just like, well, it was a 2-0. Nothing really happened. But both games are good. Obviously, Liverpool did win 1-0.
They did.
They did, and Sturridge again with a goal, which, I mean, he's turning into a bit of a one-man team, and they're faring pretty well without Suarez.
Is he the best striker in the Premier League right now?
Oh, you see, I think he's getting the big goals, but you have to wonder how long can he keep it going for? Because he's never had that consistent patch as a player in his career. Obviously, he's played well. Don't get me wrong, but he's never had like one of those seasons where he's really stand out.
When he has started, he scores. For Bolton, he got I think it was 8 and 11. And for Liverpool, he's got 15 and 16 starts, 20 appearances overall. It's not bad, is it?
I mean, I was going to say, what about when he was at Chelsea? But obviously, he never started there, so that's an irrelevant point. Yeah,
but sorry to butt in, but when he was there, he was the second highest goal scorer behind Lampard.
See,
in Torres' first season.
This is why Ben's here, people, because he sat there with a notepad of like full of notes, just reaming them off.
I'll tell you what, that's off the top of my head. When he starts games, he scores. And he's been great for Liverpool. I just want to briefly talk about why I think Liverpool were so effective at winning 1-0. But I don't know if anyone watched the Liverpool-Aston Villa game, and everyone was kind of like, oh, that's not good. That's only 1-0. Liverpool have sat back in the second half and gone at it in the first half. Why have they done that? And I think Brendan Rodgers' genius tactics did it entirely because of this game. and he thought, we'll go at it. Sturridge just not fully fit, as he said after the game. We'll go at the game, held fire, get the early goal, sit back, defend, keep it tight, and it worked. Man United had nothing. Skrtel and Lager were really good, and Man United just could not break it down. I don't know what you thought.
I mean, Man U obviously dominated the second half, but Liverpool in the first half looked completely in control of it. But there's always this nagging doubt in my mind. Obviously, going 1-0 up after 3 minutes, it's something that happened at Swansea as well. There were games that Swansea would dominate in short spells or even for long spells at time, but they'd only ever get that one goal, and then 10 minutes they conceded 2 and they were done for. And I mean, Liverpool looked solid today against what was I'd say an off day for Manchester. I mean, Hernandez and Nani, when they came on, they were a little bit more lively. Van Persie marked out the game.
Yeah,
it's a great win, don't get me wrong, but we can't afford to kind of go, well, I'm happy with 1-0 every week. I think Manchester United,
happy with 1-0 every week.
Oh, I'd be happy with it, but I don't think you can realistically expect that every week, is kind of what I'm saying. But no. I mean, Man U had an off day. Liverpool certainly had a game plan. Van Persie was marked out the game, which is you have to do that if you're going to stand a chance against United. You can't afford to. I mean, one chance and he's going to score. I don't know how you've kind of perceived United's performance.
I think it's interesting because Liverpool, obviously, we were warned about Benteke before that game, and he was marked out of the game. Ineffective, completely. If you take out the most dangerous player of a team, Brendan Rodgers seems to think, nothing happens. And against Villa, Benteke had a few half chances, one very good chance actually, and Van Persie was the same. He had one good chance towards the end, which he kind of skewed wide with his right foot. But I thought Man United they lack something in the middle. Cleverly, for me, I don't know if this is a Liverpool bias or whatever it is, but Cleverly seems so overrated. For a Manchester United midfield.
I was going to say, I mean, he's young and you have to give young players a chance. But, I mean, people on Twitter were going off about it. The Man U fans, even they were annoyed. There was that thing just before the end of the first half where Jones went down injured and then he just put in a stupid tackle, really.
Yeah, he did.
Got himself booked. I mean, that was another thing. United discipline was poor on the day. It was an interesting one because, I mean, United are good, but they do lack that little bit of quality in the midfield. I think Cleverly had an off day. I say an off day, he never really has an on day, if you ask me, but he didn't turn up. Carrick, obviously, he got booked. He had a tackle, which was his very final warning in the first, kind of right at the start of the second half.
He did.
And then at the end of the second half, he also did another tackle, which he got away with. But I think when you're on your yellow card and a warning to the last kind of 40 minutes of a game, as a central midfielder, you can't afford to kind of get stuck in. And there were times you could see him pulling out these tackles, and Cleverly doesn't do anything for me personally. I must admit, I know you're a Jordan Henderson person. I love the effort he puts in.
That's almost an insult, isn't it? You're a Jordan Henderson person. Oh, you sticking me. If you were David Moyes, would you be doing everything you possibly can tomorrow, which is the transfer deadline day for everyone? Well, I think when's this getting uploaded, Jack?
This is getting uploaded sometime after the transfer window. So if you're watching this, and when we get into the transfer deadline kind of talk, you're there like, oh, well, what about this transfer? Sorry, we recorded on a Sunday, everyone.
If I was David Moyes, I'd be doing everything I possibly can to get Fellaini in now.
They need a Fellaini. They just need that. I mean, Fellaini offers something really unique. He's a bit like a more physical Rooney. I prefer to see Fellaini kind of playing ahead of the in the midfield, rather than being the one who anchors. I like to see him kind of really push up because I think he offers something very unique with his physical presence, and I really think that presence is going to help United if they can get him in.
Yeah, I think he's much more of a priority than Baines. I don't really understand the Baines thing.
Oh, I think it's more just because him and Moyes are jilted lovers or something, really. Because Evra's there. He's a quality left-back. I mean, I was looking at this going, well, are they going to sell Evra, really? No. Is Evra going to play on the right? I don't think so.
Weirdly, I think Baines is a better left-back than Evra, but Evra's just won the league.
Yeah, exactly. He has the experience. I mean, he's been there, done that, got the postcard, Champions League, all that jazz. And then you got Leighton Baines, who's got to like the 4th round of the League Cup.
Yeah. So in summary, if I'm Man United, I'm disappointed, and I'm a bit concerned with my lack of midfield. And if I'm Liverpool, dreamland, top of the table for the next 2 weeks because of the international break. I think they're going to be loving it. But shall we move down south?
Yeah, let's go down to London. Why not? So obviously, it was the Tottenham and Arsenal game. Arsenal, what did you make of it? Was it what you expected?
I thought Spurs looked like a team who didn't know where they should be going, if that makes sense.
I do know what you mean.
For so long, they've had Gareth Bale, who is now pretty much, well, by the time this comes out, he will be a Madrid player. while they may now be a better team, they don't necessarily have the same firepower. I thought Chadley was poor, actually.
Oh, yeah, I was a bit surprised. I mean, to me, it looked like the Tottenham players get the ball and they're looking up going, where's Bale? And kind of looking around and it's like, oh, crap, he's not here. Well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's a tricky one. Obviously, Bale, we assume, is going to have left by the time this goes up. But realistically, can you replace Bale? I don't think you can. He's such a unique player. And I think they could miss him. I mean, obviously, it's going to take time to gel. They've brought in some really nice players. Lamela is a great signing.
Yeah, I really like it.
I know they broke the bank for him, but I think him from Rome is a quality one. But at the same time, he's no Bale.
Yeah.
Without kind of sounding too cliche-y.
Spurs, Norwich, Swansea have brought in players that are really good on Football Manager. You've got Leroy Fer, you've got Chadley, you've got Ericsson, Lamela, Paulinho. They've brought in loads of players that perform really well on Football Manager, but it's because Boas looks like the sort of guy that plays Football Manager anyway.
Well, he does play it actually. He used to play it for his youth, and when he started off as a scout at Porto under Jose Mourinho, and he originally kind of got his interest from scouting from Football Manager, and I know he has used it during his days at Porto. I mean, a lot of teams do use it. Everton actually used it. Moyes used it at Everton because at a team like Everton, you don't have the big scouting budget that other teams have. You can't afford to send a scout to Uruguay and go, well, just tell us if someone pops up. You need to know what you're looking for.
Yeah, on Arsenal, I thought. Do you know what? I often on Twitter, at Dr. Benji, I often slag off Aaron Ramsey for being the most dreadful footballer. He was, for me. I know. I can't remember who got man of the match. It may have been Giroud. I think it was Ramsey by far. Man, the protection, especially without Wilshere in the second half. The protection he gave Mertesacker and Koscielny, who I think need it, personally. I think they're both good defenders. I just think they really benefit from having someone just sat just in front of them and flowing in the second half, and Wilshere in the first half did that quite well. But Ramsey, box to box.
Oh, I agree. Really I think he had most touches on most tackles, which tells you a lot for a player. You know, playing in the centre mid, obviously, Wilshere went off. I mean, this is going to raise the question, especially then with Sanya having to come on, who was ill, and Wilshere, who was ill as well, who'd started. Do Arsenal need more strength? And obviously we know the answer is yes. I assume you're going to back me up here and not be like, no, they don't need anyone.
Well, I was I was definitely mocking the Arsenal bench today, because if I'm an Arsenal fan and I'm looking at that bench, I remember the Invincibles, it's a different time, but their bench was Fabianski, Sagna, Monreal, Flamini, Gnabry, Sonogo, and a player's name, Zelalem. Yeah. Sorry, Arsenal fans. But, and like, we've heard of players like Sonogo from Football Manager, and we know who Monreal and Sagna and Flamini and Fabianski are. Those are two I know are hot prospects, but it doesn't shout game-changing.
It's not a Premier League bench, is it?
What I'm saying is, you look across at the Spurs bench, Friedel, Norton, Holtby, Sigurdsson, Sandro, Lamela, Defoe.
All match winners.
Yeah, well, all players that will, if not add more to the team, can do a job from starting, whereas you wouldn't start half the Arsenal bench.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
And it's a bit of a... I know they've got a few players out, and like Podolski wasn't there today, Arteta's not there, and they'll obviously improve the squad, but I don't know. I'm a little bit... If I'm an Arsenal fan, I'm infuriated at the fact no money's been spent. This was the time. It's like Spurs have gone, right, Arsenal have got this plan. What we're going to do is do it and nick all Liverpool signings.
we need top four at all costs. We'll just buy who they need.
Yeah, I think Spurs will be bitterly disappointed they've not won the game. They had a lot of the ball, and Arsenal defended really well. Gibbs, I thought, played far better than I thought he was going to.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by Gibbs, obviously young English talent. If you look at the side and you're Wenger, where are you wanting to strengthen tomorrow? Where is it that you think I need a player here and here?
Personally, I'd want to play it not in every position, but I mean, I'd want a defender, I'd want a midfielder, a central midfielder, and a striker. And he's not going to do it. I know this is coming out after the transfer window, but he won't have done it unless there's one massive surprise, which he hinted at after the game, which could be, I don't know who it could be. It could be a Madrid player, it could be Di Maria, it could be Benzema, but
Even then, though, I think they need 3 or 4 players, not just, say, Di Maria and Benzema. I mean, I look at their side, and I think, where do they need to strengthen? Well, you need a centre-back in, you need a centre-mid. Realistically, they could probably do with a player who could play out wide. I think they need to strengthen the spine of their team, but the problem is going into kind of the final day is, you ring up a team at kind of 10 o'clock in the morning and go, hey, how much do you want for this player? you're not going to get them for their regular price, because then it's pressure on that team to then replace the player if it's the first team player. I can see them maybe signing Michu. That's a bit of an... That's been linked, and I don't know if Swansea would want to sell him, but I can just see Arsenal going big.
I can't see him going. Arsenal shot... The bid for Qual is so bizarre. It's just you're never going to get him for 10 million. He's arguably not even a player you particularly need.
Yeah, I agree.
But it seems like Wenger is just thinking, well, let's just go for someone that we know is good in French. And it's just gone straight after Qual. And it's just like, it's not logical. They need a player like Di Maria would improve Arsenal. Like, they've got Chamberlain, Walcott, Cazorla, all to play in these sort of behind striker roles. But they still need someone... They need someone as good as Fabregas, and they're not going to get someone as good as Fabregas. And they've never replaced Alex Son, for me.
Oh, I agree.
They've won above Van Persie that season, but for me, Alex Son was the rock. And he's not there, and now they haven't got anyone else to do the job he did. And he wasn't even defensive. He was like, he was an imposing figure, because he's a big guy. I don't know. But Arsenal will be delighted with the win. And Wenger's come off under a lot of criticism. And do you know what? Credit to him. He played a good Spurs team and he beat them. So
I think also he's stuck by his kind of system. You know, a lot of people are putting this pressure on him. Stop bringing in these young players. Stop moulding them to your system. I think he's sticking by his guns, which you have to admire. I think he has a lot of faith in his own players. Whether that faith's misplaced or not, I guess time will tell. I think realistically they probably need 4 or 5 transfers. I think in reality they'll be lucky to get 2 or 3 first team game changing players to fill the gaps on their bench that you kind of hinted at.
Well, so wins for Arsenal, wins for Liverpool. Do you want to cover the other Prem games?
Let's quickly run through them, really. So, obviously, Man City got what they'll consider a decent win against Hull, only 2-0, but on the back of the Cardiff game, they needed a win, really. Negredo getting on the score sheet again, I do believe. I'm now desperately trying to find the stats, because in all honesty, I didn't catch match of the day. But looking at it, you know, Hull didn't... Well, Hull put up some resistance. Obviously, going to the Etihad, it's never an easy one. I think they'll be as happy with 2-0 as Man City are, and for both sides it's a good result, and I think both can take something away from it. Yeah. Then we have Cardiff-Everton. What do you make of that for Cardiff then?
I think that's a good point. Like, I know they beat City, but it's kind of unexpected. They've bought well, actually. They've bought a couple of good players. Gary Medel especially, I think he's a bit of a psycho, so it'd be good to watch when he just hacks someone down. Unless it's a player that I like. He plays for Liverpool. But I don't know, are you worried if you're an Everton fan? Speaking hypothetically.
Well, this is the thing. Obviously, Roberto Martinez has come in. He's got the team playing his football now, which I think is great. But you've got to remember, Everton last year, a top 6 side. Cardiff are going to be delighted with a point at home against a top 6 side. Are Everton the top 6 side this year? They were last year. I don't think so. They've not really bought in anyone. They've not lost anyone. But I feel as if just the teams that have strengthened around them and how they've performed so far this year, they're perhaps not quite where they need to be if they want to be achieving what they achieved last year. But in reality, I think Martinez is happy with a top half finish this year. He's kind of trying to change the system that Everton play, and so far I think it's working to an extent.
Yeah, I agree. Newcastle?
Ben Arthur's goal was quality in that game, but that was about the only kind of hint at quality there was in that game.
He does that once every 8 matches.
Well, there was that. I was thinking when was the last time he did this? And I was thinking back to his goal where he ran from the halfway line. It was Bale-esque the way he ran from the halfway line, shouldered off players. I believe it was last year. I can't exactly remember who it was against.
Yeah, it might have been against someone like West Brom. I can't remember.
But the thing was, he was doubled up on the wing, and he just cuts inside, finds that inch of room, and manages to squeeze out the shot. Keeper rooted to his spot. Great goal for him, but in reality, it was a drab game.
Yeah, Newcastle needed the win though. They're not. Newcastle are very odd. It's very odd at Newcastle.
You look at their lineup and you go, that team's going to finish mid-table at least, and then on the pitch they just don't show it. I don't know if it's down to Pardew. I know a lot of people are hinting he could be the first manager sacked.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't know. Who do you think could be the first manager sacked?
Oh, first manager sacked. What a curveball.
I know. I think Di Canio maybe, but I know this is a bit
I was going to say Di Canio could be at risk. Di Canio or Pardew, northeast.
Yeah.
Look out. Look up your doors. Norwich?
Norwich. 1-0 against Southampton. They won, yeah, exactly. 3 points. They need the 3 points at home to realistically be in with a shout of staying up. Norwich are a team who struggle away, as they showed against Hull. At home, they're going to have to make Carrow Road a fortress, and those 3 points are going to be good.
I watched that game and I was really disappointed with Southampton. Like, I've got a bit of affinity with Norwich, but I thought Southampton were quite poor. Osvaldo looks a character. Tried an overhead kick, which went terribly wrong. I don't think much of the way showed it, but it was good to watch. Just thought he'd fling his legs at it. It would have gone in.
It was the effort that counted. I mean, he's an odd signing. I think him and Medell, for me, are the kind of the signings I didn't quite expect this window. Medell obviously came from, I think it was Sevilla in Spain, and he's gone to Cardiff, which is an odd one. He's a bit of a FM legend, but I think he's got something like, I don't know if you can remember his disciplinary record off the top of your head, but it's...
Oh, he loves to tackle.
He loves to tackle, put it that way. Plenty of red cards. And again, Osvaldo, I think he's had 8 clubs and he's 29 or something, so...
Yeah, 15 million, that's an odd one. Like, he might be good, but is it what Southampton need? They're not light up front. Like, Lambert does a job for him.
I see what you did there, not light up front and Ricky Lambert.
Oh,
that's clever.
He's a fine figure of a man, right?
That was a bit of a stab in the back there.
He scored for England, leave him alone.
So, other game, West Ham v Stoke, the battle of the long balls.
That is a match I look at and just think, that's always going to be that's the match of the day. And I don't think it was, but blimey.
I just wonder what the midfield do in this game. This must be like a tennis game between the two centre-backs at either side, just kicking it to and fro each.
Yeah, just have a chat in the middle. Kevin Nolan and Charlie Adam have just had a chat in that game. Really.
But obviously, Pennant got his first goal in 800-odd games that game.
Lovely free kick.
It was a good free kick. It was probably the touch of quality in that game. But I think for both those teams, they're going to be looking to make the most of those set pieces. Obviously, Pennant getting the goal from the set piece, kind of an obvious one. And Stoke v West Ham, you'd expect the goal to come from a set piece, but that's a great result for Stoke. But at the same time, I think as a West Ham fan, you've got to be looking to maybe get a point at least against Stoke. I think Mark Hughes there, don't really rate him as a manager. I think they haven't got the best starting 11. I don't think they've got the best bench either, really. And I think Stoke are going to do well to stay up this year. But a good 3 points for them.
Yeah, well, West Ham took Stuart Down off and then lost.
Yeah, that tells you it all. And then, obviously, last but not least, Crystal Palace, probably most people's favourite team to go down, getting 3 points at home against Sunderland. I don't know how much you caught of this game, but their third goal was special. Their third goal.
Do you know what? It was one of those goals. It'll never score another goal. They won't score again this season. I'll put it on the line now.
Yeah, I agree.
It just came so nice. I don't even know who it was. I can't remember his name. It came so nicely to him. And off the bar and in. Oh, I love that sort of goal. I love any goal that hits the bar and goes in.
See, I didn't catch the game live, and then when I saw it, and I was like, oh, they've just scored in the 92nd minute, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be some counter-attack or something where the keeper's gone up. In reality, it was probably the best goal, debatably, in the Premier League of all weekend. Obviously, great 3 points to them. Ian Holloway in the Premier League.
He was loving it. He was loving it. I like it. The way he dances, I almost feel... The first part of me thinks, oh no, don't do that. And then
you kind of enjoy it, don't you?
Give it some. Go on. Do some press ups. Do the worm. I'm hoping he does the worm this season. It's more than possible.
I'm just hoping that him and Sturridge link up and do some kind of dance together. It'd be something special. I don't know how they're both going to be celebrating at the same time on a football pitch, but
get Crouchy involved.
Someone make it happen. Exactly. We'll just have a big party. Why not?
He would bring the Premier League dance off.
Oh, that's a question.
I'm backing my man Sturridge.
I don't know. Ian Holloway.
I'm backing him. I don't like his dance particularly, but
I don't know if you caught Soccer AM, but there was Alan Pardew doing some directions on the sideline, and it looked like the best disco dance ever. So I think Alan Pardew, you've kind of got to trick him into dancing, but if you can get him dancing, it's something special.
Into dancing. This is like a very dark.
Slip him a shot or two, give him some vodka in his glass of water. Pre-game. I'm just throwing out hints here to the Newcastle players if anyone ever watches this. We've forgotten about Swansea. I don't want to forget them because someone will moan, but they got a win. 2-0.
Away from home? Good win.
Away from home, exactly. It was a good win for them. They'll be happy with the 3 points. Obviously, they've not had the greatest start to the season. 2-0 away against West Brom as well. They're a good team, West Brom. I do think, obviously, the last few years they've overperformed, if you ask me, but I think they've got to be aiming for that top half finish, and I think a 2-0 defeat at home to Swansea is going to hurt them a little.
I think West Brom could go down.
Oh, is that your kind of unexpected turn, or is there a bigger curveball to throw out there?
I think they're going to really miss Lukaku.
Oh, it disappoints me to see him not playing for them this year, not playing first team football in general.
We could get, speaking of Lukaku, we could quickly go off the Premier League, finish that, and quickly talk about, very briefly, the Super Cup.
The exciting bit of football for the week so far, I suppose, really. It was a great game.
Yeah, World Footballer of the Year.
Oh, Ribery.
Got a goal.
See, I don't watch enough Bundesliga to rate it, but Ribery, for me, whenever I've seen him play, I don't like him. He's not a very likeable person, I don't think.
He looks like he's got... I don't know, he looks like he's got a knife.
And I do know what you mean. I mean, if you were to assemble a psychopath 11, you'd have Skirtle and Vidic at centre-back. And I don't think he'd be much further forward on the wing, really.
Yeah, Teve's up top as well. A whole team of just, like, angry men. I say that because they've got scars, but they're not really related to fights. So
no, it doesn't work, does it? Guys, let us know in the comments who your psychopath 11 would be. I'm trying to think who I'd have in goal now. I think you'd have Fabian Barthez in goal. He just looks like...
you'd have someone like Big Jens. Jens Lehmann.
I do know what you mean now. He does. Oh, David Seaman with the ponytail.
Oh yeah, the hard man Seaman.
It's just the way. It's the way he's always smiling slightly sadistically. But I think we should get back. You know what I'm on about.
Like that.
He looks like he's got a plan. He looks like he's got dark thoughts running through his mind.
David Seaman has got a heart of gold, and he was on Dancing on Ice. So I'm not having it.
Mate, that's all a cover up. I'm sorry to break it to you.
A cover up. It's tell you what, it's a great cover up, and the ponytail. Blimey. Yeah. Well, on Lukaku. I don't know, people listening to this probably don't follow me on Twitter yet, but, Jack, what happened?
We go into the penalty shootout, and I see Ben tweet out Lukaku to miss the deciding penalty. So I'm going, that's a bit obvious. So I'm going to go with the even more obvious option of John Terry to miss it.
As he steps up, I'm thinking, tell you, it's coming, here it comes. And then he missed and Bayern won it. Guardiola versus Mourinho, Guardiola comes out on top again, it seems.
I did feel bad because... Chelsea, with like 2 minutes left, Labrooks put up a tweet like 50-1 on Chelsea to win. Which obviously you're like, oh, that's easy money. I'll stick 50 quid on it, get a quid back. Bayern Munich score, and it's all very awkward. So
if you are just as a point, if you are doing that, stop betting. That can be Jack's betting tip of the week. Don't bet on 50-1 on because no good could come of it apart from the quid.
The quid, which you might not get at the end of the day, as we found out. But I mean, a bit more about the actual game, because we've now talked about psychopaths, David Seaman, and betting all in the space of 2 minutes. What did you think of the game itself? Obviously, Chelsea v Bayern, rerun of the Champions League final from a few seasons ago.
It was quite like that game as well. Chelsea just kind of sat back, which David Luiz hates. David Luiz is a caged animal when he defends. He just doesn't want to be there. He clears it and sprints out 10 yards every time he clears it, and then no one else moves. And he's kind of like, oh, go back.
See, I think he's trying to play some kind of weird, obscure offside trap that only he knows about, and he's just trying to get the rest of the team, the Chelsea, they're going to kick the ball up, and then all the defensive line's just going to push forward. But, I mean, it was a good game.
I thought Bayern deserved it,
overall. I mean, Ramirez's tackle was a pretty bad... I mean, it didn't look that bad originally, and then I have Andy Townsend on ITV screaming, oh, it's never a foul, and then they show the highlight, and you got Gertz's ankle kind of snapping in half.
Yeah, you'd think Andy Townsend was English, but didn't he lie about playing for Ireland? So...
Oh, I don't know anymore. I mean, I don't really rate him. ITV's coverage of football in general is pretty grim.
Do you know what? I don't really like adverts in football. Just annoys me. And it kind of after the break. Oh, imagine if that happened on an FM. You'd just not play, would you? You'd go, I'm not going to play. Because I'm going to have to watch an advert about DFS.
It's like in YouTube as well. When you're watching a YouTube video, it's like, right, we're going to stick an advert in the middle for you. I mean, imagine if it was like American football, like regular football. I say regular football because American football isn't proper football, and now I've just offended loads of people. But
yeah,
can you imagine football, right? It's been 2 minutes, so we're going to have another advert. Join us in the 3rd minute, and we'll let you know if there's been a goal in between. It just wouldn't work.
Well, with my wide football knowledge, in India, they just bring up adverts at the bottom of the screen and don't have adverts in the middle. I don't know if that's a fact. If you are from India, I don't know if that's a fact, but when I've watched dodgy Indian streams, that happens. So, it might happen, it might not. Let's assume it does. Moving swiftly on. Best and worst transfers. I think we should quickly have a little run through. What's your best business by a club, and then your worst business by a club? For the worst business, I think we should just take out Arsenal because we know it's them. Right now, as we speak, we know it's them. So let's just... And Man United, get rid of them as well. If you've not signed a player, you can't really have done the worst business because you've done no business. But is that the worst business? Probably.
So yeah, I've got a theory here with Arsene Wenger. Obviously, he got in Yaya Sanogo. So my theory is that he's been playing FM13 and seen him as a wonder kid and brought him in. And now he's sat on transfer deadline day tweeting at Miles, asking him when the FM14's coming out so he can use the database. He's like, I'm not making any transfers till I've checked the player on FM14. But obviously, that's not going to happen. But I don't know. That's an interesting one. I kind of want to say Real Madrid, if they sign Bale, just because the absolutely ridiculous amount of money they will have spent on players, which I think, as Tottenham have shown, there's better alternatives out there that you could build up a really kind of solid squad rather than just a few players for.
For me, the Premier League side, worst business, probably Newcastle. Purely because they've pretty much got the same team as they did last year, apart from now they've got possibly convicted sexual abuser Loic Remy. Everyone else has done all right, whereas they've just signed a striker, which they don't like. They need goals, but for me, when Colaccini and Steven Taylor get injured, which will inevitably happen, Mike Williamson isn't very good as a replacement. They've also got another guy in who I've totally forgotten his name and it's terrible, but he's good on Football Manager. You know who I'm on about? Starts with a Y and then an M.
I don't know who you're on about.
Oh, why have you done this? Okay, the thing is, I'm going to find his name now, and I'm still not going to be able to pronounce it, which is terrible.
I mean, they are an interesting one. I think Newcastle have a solid squad.
Danga Mbima.
See, he nearly got sent off the other week. He might have even got sent off. I can't really remember. But he's an okay centre-back. I think the problem for Newcastle is they had a solid team last year, but they underperformed and didn't really gel because half their team's French. I think going into this year, if their players can really kind of work each other out, they should be fine. But at the same time, they've not added enough quality, and if these players don't gel, they've kind of not really got this plan B in place.
Yeah, it's very important that they suddenly work as a team, because they got hit really badly with injuries last season, and we shouldn't have passed that. But the season before that, were they fifth?
I think it was. Yeah, it must have been
fifth.
fifth.
No, they can't have been fifth. They must have been sixth because Tottenham came. Yeah, I think they were sixth. But they've got players like Sissoko, good player, Ben Arfa, Cabaye, Gutierrez, Tiote, none of which have really set the world alight last season. Sissoko had an immediate impact, but from then on, and Cisse has gone from being arguably the best striking poacher in the Premier League to, when did he last score? I don't even know.
I think he's missing Demba Ba. He's just there, like, where's Demba on the football pitch?
I think Newcastle, he's got no one to play with, does he? So he doesn't want to do anything.
It's like Bale, exactly. I mean, is Ba going to go back? I've heard rumours of that, potentially, especially if they've brought in Samuel Eto'o, they've brought in Lukaku, obviously, back. They've got Torres. They've got some alternatives up there now. Is he going to be there, do you reckon, come the end of the transfer window?
Well, for a team, Chelsea are a funny team, because for a team that have got 4 or 5 good strikers, they didn't start one against Bayern Munich.
That was a really odd decision, I have to admit. I would have liked to have seen Lukaku start, and I know we talked about this earlier, but I think if he plays enough first-team football, he could be good enough for them. Yeah. I mean, Eto's an odd one for me. I kind of think they've bought him because he's there, and because he has a bit of experience.
I think that's a great signing. I think that's a really shrewd
I think it's a great signing, but I don't know if it's a great signing for Chelsea, if that makes sense. Like, I think other teams I'd be like, yeah, that's one that makes sense. But I think you look at Chelsea, they've got some great attacking options. Obviously, Matter's not playing for them, which is just a head puzzler, if you ask me.
Well, I think he's injured still.
And they've not said.
Well, no, they kind of have said, but he didn't really have much of a pre-season. He was away with Spain for the Confederations Cup, and he's come back and he's just kind of, I don't know, he's just not, he didn't have a lot of pre-season, and now he's just not match fit. I think everyone's looking into that far too much. It's like, Mourinho doesn't want him, when in actual fact he's just not fit, so he's not playing.
And also he's not been called up for the Spain squad either, which does make you also wonder. I don't think Torres was called up either, though.
No, he wasn't, but that's hardly surprising.
No.
Although his goal was quite good against Bayern.
It was. I mean, for me, I think Eto'o might be one of the best signings. I know we talked about, obviously, Newcastle making the worst deal. For you, best signing, I think Eto'o's a good one. But I think my kind of man of the moment has to be Nathan Redmond for Norwich, because I think they've brought him in for $3 million. You look at kind of similar players who have moved clubs, Wilfried Zaha from Crystal Palace for $15 million. Obviously, Redmond scored yesterday for Norwich. I think for a young English player of his calibre, and obviously he's played regular championship football for Birmingham over the years, he's played for England's under-21s, potentially an England international in the future as long as he doesn't get injured, I think. $3 million could be a steal for him in the long run.
I think Norwich have done the best business. Leroy for Redmond, Olsen, Elmander, Wolfswinkel, Hooper. They've strengthened in all the areas they need to strengthen in. So, I think they've done really well.
See, I agree with you, but my problem with Norwich is that I don't know how many of their players are what you describe as Premier League players. None of them have. I think that some of them could be Premier League players, but none of them have played in the Premier League of the players they've brought in. None of them have kind of established themselves and shown, I'm a Premier League quality player. And unless a few of them step up, and I do believe some of them will step up, but unless enough of them step up to make a difference to what, in my eyes, is an average Norwich side, I think they did well to finish 11th this year. Somewhat lucky, obviously, there was a time when it looked very nervy for them going down.
Yeah, nah.
But you look at the players they've brought in, you go, these guys could be Premier League players, but until they've proven themselves at that level, I don't want to go out there and say Norwich have done the best business. Simply on that fact alone, there's none of these kind of established players.
I see what you're saying. I think Ruddy's a Premier League player. I think Basong certainly is. I think Basong is arguably Norwich's best player. Leroy Fer, FM legend, looks really good. Redmond looks really good. Wolfswinkel needs more of the ball. Almanda, I saw him against Bury. I went to watch that game live. Really good. I know it's Bury, but he looked a cut above everybody on the pitch.
What was that result? 6-3 to Norwich against
6-3. Yeah, Bury scored an absolute belter in the 90th minute as well. Do you know what? I've got a bit of a out of left field. The best signing of the whole window.
Throw it out there.
Bernard to Shakhtar.
See, for me, that's a great sign in the Brazilian land. I would have loved to have seen him come to a bit more of an established league, and I know a lot of Brazilians tend to go to the Ukraine before they then come kind of into a big European league. But I think they've got a very good player there, and I'm kind of surprised that none of the Premier League teams moved in for him. Yeah,
Arsenal and Liverpool were linked. I think Spurs were briefly as well. But the thing is, Shakhtar have sold 3 really good players. They sold Fernandinho to Man City, they sold Mkhitaryan to Dortmund, and they sold, Willian to Chelsea.
Yeah.
No, they didn't. Sorry, that's not true. They sold Willian to Anzi, who have now sold him
to Chelsea.
That's
a really odd one there, the fact that he's been sold twice. But I mean,
he did play for Anzi. Sorry, he played 8 games, but 8 games.
Yeah, I mean that is an odd one. I mean, what do you make of Man City's business? Because obviously they've spent big, and I mean 30 million for Fernandinho for me. I don't know. I don't think that's the best bit of business. I think Pellegrini's been given a load of cash and he's gone, what's the best player we can get in this position? And he's not bothered about the money, whereas in reality, I think they would have been better off kind of getting a 20 million centre defensive midfielder and then maybe investing 10 million somewhere else rather than...
Do you not think he is that? Do you not think he is that defensive? I think he's outshone Torre, who's been asked to play a deeper role under Pellegrini.
See, I do, but at the same time, I don't think he's a £30 million player. I think... This is just my stance on it. I think you pay £30 million for your midfielder who's going to grab your goals or your striker. Not detracting and saying that, defenders and centre defensive midfielders shouldn't be worth that much. But I think in modern football, you see a lot more and more kind of attacking players. Your match winners get the £40 million signings than you do, say, your centre defensive midfielder or defender. And for me, I don't know, 30 million... To me, sounds like a lot. Obviously, they've spent money elsewhere on Negredo and strengthened these kind of attacking areas. I'm not sure how much they got him in for, but I think Negredo's come off the bench a few times now and scored. Got plenty of goals for them, and I think he's looking like a great little investment for them. Yeah, they've got Jovetic and Navas as well, who they've gone for it. So, they've obviously... Pellegrini's thought, we're not good enough to win a league, but... I don't know. The Hearts struggle as well. I think that's a blip. I don't think that'll be anything major. Look at De Gea when he had a blip. Yeah, I agree. I mean, the other thing is when a keeper makes a mistake, there's always this spotlight thrown on them. Yeah. When you look at kind of attackers who don't score, it's not so bad. I think it's great to see Dzeko as well scoring so freely for City and actually starting, because I think he was labelled the super sub last year, and I think it's great to see him getting so many goals. The worst transfer of the deal for me, I don't want to talk about it because everybody talks about it. Bale to Madrid. Don't even get it. Don't understand. For the money, for the player, don't understand it. But I don't want to keep talking about it. This is the bit now where this hasn't happened, and obviously everyone's going to have heard so much about it when this goes up if it hasn't happened. But I think it has happened, but I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of the Bale stuff. Oh, anyway, we need to get off transfers. Transfers are so boring, and everyone's going to be sick of them on Monday. I know. You're going to have had what's that guy called? Jim White, is it? Jim White. Jim White, the Sky Sports legend, coming out. If you don't know who he is, he's this old man who they kind of store in a cupboard and bring out once a year when it's transfer deadline day, and kind of they just stick him out there and go, Jim, tell us about the transfers. And all he's done for the 6 months they've had him locked in a cupboard Let's kind of study who's going to go where.
January's transfer deadline day was so boring, they filmed him coming to work.
Champions League, let's just boosh, curveball, change the subject. The Champions League draw was done this week. What's your thoughts on it? Groups of death. Who do you think's got the good draws? Who do you think's got the bad draws?
I think Celtic will get out of that. Barcelona, Ajax, Milan. No, I don't. I think they're in. Do you know what? Celtic fans are going to have a lovely trip abroad. Anywhere they go out of those three, Milan, Amsterdam, Barcelona. Tell you what, there's going to be suntans all over the place. Let me tell you. Arsenal equally are going to struggle. I think they might beat Marseille, but Napoli under Benitez, strong team.
They've made great transfers. They've strengthened. I think Dortmund, quality
Dortmund
side.
Dortmund do the same. They lost Goetze, but they've got Mkhitaryan, who's...
I mean, Marseille on their day can get results as well. You know, they've not been so prolific in Europe of late, and in French football in general hasn't. But on their day, they could beat Arsenal, they could beat Napoli, they could beat Dortmund.
Well, Marseille pushed PSG a lot further last season than people expected, with Joey Barton in the centre of midfield, which is weird. That probably suggests Arsenal might beat Marseille if Joey Barton was a shining light. But no, I think Arsenal have got... that is a tough group. Napoli, Dortmund, Marseille and Arsenal. Arsenal don't do badly in group stages, but that is a tougher group than they've had for a while.
The thing with that group is, and this, I know you want to talk about the coefficients and how they do all the ranking for the seedings and stuff. I look at that group, I see all four of those teams as fairly on par with each other. Maybe Marseille slightly behind, maybe Dortmund slightly ahead. But it's a funny one, because Arsenal were the top seed in that group, I believe. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And I know you want to talk about this, so we'll just throw it in now, but these rankings, I don't think they work.
The UEFA coefficient, now, my issue with it is, I can't think of a better way of doing it. Unless, as I said before we came on, you give seed 1 to the team that wins the league, but then you'll have situations where Real Madrid will be in pot 2 or Barcelona will be in pot 2, and then Dortmund will be in pot 2, Chelsea or Man City will be in pot 2, Man United will be in pot 2. Pot 2 will become very heavy with good teams. But you look at Ajax, I feel so... Look, Ajax is... People said City had tough groups. Last season, the Ajax won their division and they had to face... Was it Bayern Munich?
I think it was Munich, City.
No, sorry, it wasn't Munich. My apologies. It was Real Madrid, Dortmund and Man City.
See, that's where it doesn't work. I'm sorry.
And this season, they've got Celtic. All right, they'll probably beat Celtic, although they've lost a lot of players, Ajax. Barcelona and Milan. Like that. Tell you what, if I'm Frank de Boer, I'm upset. See, how else do you do it?
Well, this is the thing. I think they have to reassess how the rankings actually work. Because you look at United's group, Shakhtar, Bayern Leverkusen, and Real Sociedad. I'm sorry, but that group, the three other teams in that league, in that group, Shakhtar, Leverkusen, Sociedad, to me, they're pot 4 teams. Like, maybe pot 3 at a push, but to get those 3 teams and Man United in the league, and then you look at kind of the likes of Barcelona, AC Milan, Celtic and Ajax, I think a few questions have to be raised as to how they actually do it.
Yeah, I agree. Well, did you hear the stat that Liverpool would be in like pot 2 or 3 had they been in the Champions League? Because it's on the last 5 years. Yeah,
you see, I don't think that works. I mean, it's not that I don't think Arsenal are good, and Arsenal's just a good example, but for Arsenal to get pot 1 and Manchester City to get pot 3, to me, doesn't work. I think they have to not just assess how a team performs in Europe, but kind of how they perform within their own domestic league.
They need to bring in a system, because the UEFA coefficient, I think the maximum points you can get for a season is something like 30. I'm not sure if that's correct. I'm basing that off FM knowledge, if I'm honest. But, for example, so if you win the league, you get 15, 10, 5, and you add that to your UEFA coefficient, which may skew it in terms of if you're a team from, say, Russia, you may immediately be put further up in your coefficient. But if you win your league, you deserve to have a higher pot drawing, I think. Like for Ajax, for example, won the league last 2 seasons, and they keep getting put in ridiculously tough groups, and they're never going to go up because they keep getting teams like Barcelona, like Milan, like Dortmund, like Real Madrid. This is going to keep happening to Ajax because they're not going to progress past the group stage and get their coefficient up.
I mean, I'm looking at the Netherlands coefficient ranking; they're 9th,
which
in Europe.
Is crazy. PSV they were unlucky to lose to Milan, and Ajax qualified by rights, but it's just like I don't know. How else do you do it? I think we've come up with quite a good solution, is that you take the league form into consideration and you use that as well as your UEFA. How do you perform in European competition?
I mean, the other thing is, Portugal are fifth. I'm just looking at it now. You've got, in terms of countries, Spain, England, Germany, Italy, Portugal, France, Russia and Holland. That's in order, the top 8. Is
that 8 teams you just mentioned there?
That's 8 nations, yeah. I mean, Portugal in 5th. To me, that doesn't make sense.
If you're going to do that, if they are the 8 top nations, you put the winner of each of those. I don't know if you do agree. This is a good topic. So if you agree, do comment and I'll read them all. But do you think the winner of each of the top 8 nations should be put in pot 1? Because I think that it may be unfair in some situations, and it is now, but it just seems like you should be put in pot, because it's like the Cup Winners' Cup. If you win your league, you should get put in the best pot.
There is no right or wrong answer to this, and it's one of these systems where it's impossible to say this would work or this wouldn't work until it was actually implemented and kind of used in practice. But it doesn't work. I mean, the other groups that we haven't covered, Group D, obviously City are with Victoria Plzen. I mean, are they a Portuguese team? I don't even know.
The Czech Republic.
Okay, so I mean, to put them as a 4th seed, I understand, but then you look at CSK Moscow, Munich and City. I mean, no disrespect to the Russians leagues, and I know Moscow are the champions of that league, but for them to be 2nd seeds and City to be 3rd seeds, to me, just doesn't make much sense. I mean, I'm not trying to detract from the Russian leagues here, but I think that's another example of where it doesn't work. I mean, Bayern, Munich, obviously, they deserve to be their pot 1. You look at kind of Group E, which is a better example. I think Group E is probably the best example of kind of these rankings working, where you have Chelsea, Schalke, Basel and Steaua Bucharest.
Yeah, I think Group A is good for that as well. That's Manchester United, Shakhtar, Leverkusen and Sociedad.
See, to me, I don't know. I've not seen that much of Shakhtar, and I know they've got a few shock results and they have a fairly strong squad. But for them,
I think they're a good team. Yeah. I rate them quite highly.
It's an interesting one. I mean, who out the British teams do you think's got the toughest draw? I mean, I think Celtic are the obvious one. So out the English teams,
I think definitely Arsenal. Like Napoli and Dortmund, Arsenal will do very well. And you can just see Higuain scoring, can't you? You can just see it.
Oh, it would be pretty tragic when he scores at the Emirates. Wenger hasn't signed anyone.
Napoli have got a good team. Napoli have got a really good team. They've got Hamsik Inler, who they kept hold of, and they added Calderon and Higuain. Obviously, they've lost some really good players in recent years. They lost Lavezzi and Cavani this season.
They've got big old Reina as well.
Oh yeah, of course, they got Pepe in online. So
good signings. I think Napoli should probably do best in that group. I know that's a bit of an odd one. I think them and Dortmund, probably the 2 to go through. I think the other English teams, they get obviously Chelsea, Schalke, Basel and Steaua Bucharest, they probably got the easiest tie.
Yeah, Mourinho will be really pleased with that.
City have got the interesting one. Obviously, CSK Moscow, they got 2nd seed ahead of City. They are the champions of Russia. They could be a tricky one. I mean, and then you look at obviously United, Leverkusen, Sociedad and Shakhtar. Realistically, they should win that group every day of the week.
I think Pellegrini and Moyes will be relatively happy. I think after City's groups in the last 2 years, I think they'll be pretty pleased with Moscow and Pizan. No disrespect to him, I just think they're not of the same calibre as Ajax, Dortmund, Madrid, which was City's group last year. And I think Man United and Shakhtar will battle out for the top of that group. I think Shakhtar, like I say, a good team. Got Bernard and a few others. I think they've got potential. Who do you think will win it? Let's make a prediction. Who's winning the Champions League, Jack?
Blimey. That is one hell of a question to just throw at me there. I mean,
it's good in podcasts that you leave a nice gap of time.
I know.
So if you ever think, we'll all sit in silence.
Okay, I'm going to be quick with this. I'm going to throw out a curveball. No one's expecting this. Napoli. For me,
well, you're wrong, but it's a good effort. I think PSG will come really close. I don't think you can look past people like Barcelona. They're still a good team. They've not done bad, have they? I think PSG strengthened really well. They've got as good an attacking line as anyone else in the world.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I'm kind of surprised they didn't go in for Rooney. I know they were linked with him. Will Rooney go? That's just one more thing that we can talk about. No, I'm going to say no too.
I thought he would a month ago. A month ago, I thought he was off, but I think if he was going to go, it would have happened by now.
Well, he's cut his forehead. I'm looking forward to him coming out with like a Harry Potter scar on his forehead. I
saw a picture of him today, and it is. I tell you what, it is a nasty. Just Rooney's face. Like I don't know if it was pre-cut or post-cut, but yeah, it was I had to click off immediately. It was like when you click on one of those things and it goes really loud in your headphones for like a minute. It gave me that sort of heart rate.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey. So you're going Napoli?
I'm going Napoli. I'm interested to hear you since I'm wrong.
I'm going PSG purely because they've got a really quite easy group. Benfica, Anderlecht, Olympiacos.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's another example of it not working. But then
the
thing is, football isn't played on paper, so the longer we kind of, I guess, dwell on this and look over it, there's never going to be a system that works fully. But anyway, I think we've milked football for all it's worth.
I think we have.
Let's get into a bit of FM chat, obviously.
Go on then, I'm ready for it.
FM chat, FM 14 around the bend. No release date given yet, but obviously loads of new features been announced. Big one this week was the new player roles. What are your thoughts on them?
I am really pleased. Your videos on the player role was really good. I think people are enjoying them as well. I hope they're going down well. But no, I'm pleased that they've now brought in... It's just adding... Year on year, Football Manager has to do something to make it different, and this makes it a lot different, in my opinion. It's like FIFA try and do it, but not as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, FIFA have changed the formations around this year.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, loads of people have been like, oh, well, they've not got a new match engine. You've got to remember, Sports Interactive, the game as a whole, isn't about the match engine. The match engine's been the same for 3 or 4 years. A match engine in itself, they're still trying to get the tactics bit right. I'd much rather have a game that doesn't look as kind of nice as, say, a AAA title at the moment, but has a realistic and well-worked match engine. They fixed a lot of the problems this year that there was with the current match engine. There's still a few things I disagree with, like the movement of defenders when it comes to marking crosses and stuff like that. It's annoying. But all in all, I'm happy with the announcements they've made. Obviously, the new player roles is a great one, and we'll come on to that in a second. But it's all the little things are adding up. I mean, they've been doing this 1,000 feature thing on Twitter. If you ask me, they've milked it for all it's worth, and realistically, a lot of these 1,000 new features aren't really new features. But I'd rather see a game that has thousands of new additions that are going to make a little difference than a new match engine. That's just me.
Yeah. I think... This might be controversial, and obviously you're a Football Manager channel, so people might disagree with this. But I think if you're playing Football Manager for the match engine, which is a weird way of looking at it, I think it needs to improve. But that's not why I play Football Manager. Does that make sense? Like, I
agree, exactly.
I play
I'm
Football
not there for the graphics.
to manage. Like, if sometimes something doesn't go my way, I just think, well, in football, things don't go the way everyone wants them to.
Yeah.
So in a way, them having a dodgy match engine makes the game more realistic.
I mean, I do like the new roles. I think they add something nice. A few of them, people who don't study tactics religiously, they won't know what they are. Stuff like the Shadow Striker, which is a false 10. I've been on so many forums where people are like, well, I think a Shadow Striker is going to be Heskey.
That's an awful thing to say.
But a Shadow Striker is a false 10. It's your Fellaini, it's your Rooney, it's kind of... I don't want to go into too much detail because I'm going to do a video on it, but it is literally your centre attacking or striker who drops deep for the ball. Your traditional number 10 would be your kind of flary playmaker. Football evolved and you'd see your physical anchor men come in and mark them out the game. You know, your Roy Keane, really rile them up. And now what you're seeing is this unique role come out called the false 10 or Shadow Striker, which is a player like... Messi. Well, he's a false 9. I think the difference is with Messi, he comes deep to get the ball, whereas a false 10 is kind of your big brute of a midfielder who then pushes up and kind of swaps. He's like the opposite of a false 9 in many regards. You look at Fellaini.
Yeah, I was going to say, so do you think, I was about to say that, do you think Fellaini is the perfect example of that then? Because you were saying earlier you think he's better further forward.
Yeah, I think Fellaini's a great player going forward. I mean, you have to look at how he played, I think it was Everton United last year, where he was played in this false 10 role just off Jelovic. And he was the physical presence. I think in centre mid there were Scholes and Cleverley. Neither of those players could tackle him. He won everything in the air because they weren't prepared for him. And then going forward, he almost acted as a second striker. You see it a lot with kind of the 4-4-1-1 role. Where you've got this kind of man who plays off the striker and drops in to become a fifth midfielder when you've not got the ball, and then going forward they'll just burst from deep. I think Rooney's done it to an extent, and it's a role that isn't that popular in modern football at the moment. But just to add these kind of roles that people don't know about and might never consider using is just a great, nice addition. Other ones I like, Target Flankman I think is a great addition. It's something that Norway used during the 1990s with Flo, who was this 6'4" winger. Norway, 4 million people, not the best technically gifted players. What they did was they played what they called the Flo pass, where they played a 4-5-1, They had one striker who was this nippy fast guy whose name I can't remember. They had Flow out on the right-hand side, and their general tactic was, well, who fits a Flow, and then we'll put the fastest players we can in the centre of midfield to run on ahead, and we'll play on the counter-attack. And they qualified for back-to-back back-to-back World Cups. I'd be amazed if Norway qualified for the Champions League. But these new roles are really exciting. I think it's going to make people get a lot more into the tactical scene, like looking up, going, I wonder what this does or what this means, and any depth to the tactics is great in my eyes. Yeah,
I like the fact I think the problem with Football Manager sometimes it becomes a bit stale. You have players and you think, right, they're playing this formation, they're playing this position, they have this role, this is how I'm going to play. And now with all these new roles, do you know what'll be really interesting? It'll be interesting to see how the AI respond to these new roles and how they'll use their players. Because I worry that the AI won't do it as much as you will, and you will benefit too much from it.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
So that's a concern. But I think, in general, it's really good that they think there's so much more we can do with that side of Football Manager, which arguably for a lot of people, the main side of Football Manager. Having your team, putting your players where you want them, and letting them do what you want them to do. So it's a really important aspect of the game, I think.
I think new roles are great. People obviously make their own roles in Football Manager anyway when they get in depth. But it's going to open up a whole new load of opportunities. People aren't just going to play a 4-2-3-1, a 5-3-2, a 4-4-2. There's going to be all these kind of new opportunities and new play styles that get thrown out there as a result. What other features that have been announced so far are you kind of a little bit pumped for besides the player roles?
My favourite feature so far, and I've already spoke to you a little bit about it, so you will know, but the potential fixtures. At last. It's such a minor thing, and it annoys me it's not there already, but potential fixtures. The amount of times I'll play my first team, and then all of a sudden they'll go, I've got a cup game Thursday night at Stockport. What? But I wanted to press. No! And now that's there. Thank you. It's so minor, but it's so,
the projected features is great. I think the other thing that's nice is being able to request a fixture rearrangement if you've got a lack of players in your squad on international duty.
Yeah.
I had a problem in Asia where I lost, I think, half my Beijing IT team to the Asian Under-23s World Cup. And this was during the final games of the season in China, and I had to play the final of the Chinese National Cup with half my squad because everyone else was away on international duty. Now, I don't know how often you can be able to rearrange them, but just for situations like that, obviously FM is designed so that the fixtures try and work themselves out. But in the more obscure leagues, you do get these kind of really odd problems arise, and it's kind of a manual way of troubleshooting that problem rather than them having to add in all these exceptions of coding and whatever for the change in the fixtures. It's just a nice simple manual option, just hoping that you can actually successfully get them rearranged when you ask for them.
It's interesting with that sort of thing though, obviously, because there's if it's a tournament, how would they do that? Because obviously they're away for the whole tournament. So where do you rearrange the game to? You become up in a situation where you have a month that you just don't play because you don't want to. Is that what you do?
Just keeps coming around every Friday, right? I'm going to play a game. No, give it a minute.
Yeah.
Still waiting for the lads.
We've got 4 of those Chinese lads out on international duty. We're not going to play this one. Just keep waiting until you've got your full squad. Because you cheat it though, but you go, well, there are 2 players away on international duty, but I've got 6 injuries. So we can just flick that around a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think the features so far, I've not seen one that's made me go, oh, don't do that.
Yeah, so, I think they're nice additions. I've got written down here that the next thing coming up is Ben's mystery feature weekly.
Now.
And I've not been told about this. I'm just excited as everyone else is listening.
Ben's mystery feature now, folks. We've all seen Jack's Louis Tomlinson experiments, the Usain Bolt experiment, which has boomed on his channel. So it's time for the Ben and Jack experiment.
Oh, God, what's this going to entail?
Well, what the plan is, Jack, I will, over the next week, I will discuss with you in private, having our own team, having us in Football Manager, me and you, and we're going to see how we do. Now, there are a few stipulations, obviously, because you can't just, where are we going to start? Where are we going to play? We're going to be free agents. What's going to happen? Well, let me tell you. We're going to both start as our ages right now. You get a choice now. Do you know what? I'm giving a bit of the power to you. You've got a choice between the recently promoted clubs in the Championship. I'll use the FC Marshall update. And who do you want to be? Bournemouth, Doncaster, Yeovil. Where do you want to start your career, Jack?
Oh, put me on the spot. Yeovil. Why not?
Yeovil. Right, then I will.
I want to play in green. It's totally my colour.
I will go to Bournemouth.
See, I wanted to go to Bournemouth because I think that's the better option, but I just like Yeovil, so...
All right, well, you're going Yeovil. So you're at Yeovil now, and every week, folks, I will let you know, and hopefully, Jack, you can put the occasional screenshot on the video, because you're good at that sort of thing. And we'll see how me and Jack get on in Ben and Jack, the experiment.
This is so exciting.
Was that the feature you were hoping for?
I honestly, I was kind of half expecting you to go like X Factor style audition and just sing for me, but...
Oh, well, it's funny you should mention that. The second... No, I'm joking. There's no second feature. But no, that's my feature for each week.
So, I've got my little feature now. This is something that I'm going to try, and if it works and we get a decent response, I'll be doing it more.
Alright.
And I think we mentioned this a bit briefly before. But basically, guys, what you're going to do is you're all going to go on Football Manager, and we're just on the vanilla Football Manager 13.3.0 update. And you're going to go and take over today Arsenal. And your challenge is to do what Wenger hasn't done this year, and to basically, in the opening transfer window, try and make the best deals you can and then present your starting 11. So you can do this in a video, in some screenshots, you can tweet them at me or Ben. And basically what I want to see is your transfer deals that you've done, who you've brought in, who you've sold. You're allowed to sell in and bring in as many players as you want. Don't change your start of season expectations to champions, just stick them on continental qualification. And we're just going to see who does the best deal. And then come next week, me and Ben are going to talk over who we did and brought in and got rid of at Arsenal, and who we think did best out of the people who kind of submitted their starting 11s come the start of the season.
I see. I think the best way to do that is if you're gonna tweet them or screenshot them, use the hashtag ForTheFans.
Yeah, hashtag ForTheFans, which...
Yeah.
I think we're done now. I don't know if you've got anything you want to add, Ben. Obviously, first podcast, not really. We have planned it, but it's one of these things where you have to kind of go with the flow and just go with feedback.
I've had a good time. I think we've had a good first episode. I think we can definitely sharpen this up. But so far, so good. I'm pleased. Thanks for having me. I hope everyone enjoys me. I hope you've not found me too irritating, because I will be reading the comments and I will be blocking you individually. No, I'm just joking. I'll be fine with it. But yeah, I've had fun. It's nice to meet you all.
Yeah, it was fun. Obviously, as I mentioned, it's bi-weekly, so we'll be back next week. I think it'll be next kind of 2 weeks on Tuesday if this goes up on the Tuesday. Obviously, we'll be talking about all the football that's gone on then. If you've got any suggestions for guests that you'd like to see join me and Ben on the show, leave them down in the comments. We'll try and get some people on board, as I know mine and Ben's voice can get somewhat monotonous if you hear us every week for the entire year. Well, I don't want to say that. I mean,
speak for yourself.
Yours, maybe. But no, seriously, guys, thank you for watching. Ben, any closing words?
It's me, Ben, and I'm out.
Oh, it's just totally stole my tagline. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Let us know what you thought of the first episode of the podcast. Feedback helps us. Leave a like on the video if you did enjoy. And other than that, guys, it is me, Jack. I've been joined by Ben. This has been ForTheFans, and I'm out. We'll talk to you guys in a bit.
Sculpture of a goal, Pablo. It's perfection. Pablo, I think you'd be having to call for an oxygen tank for me, my friend.